Okay, so we are now live on my channel. So hello everyone that has shown up if you're here yet. I know sometimes it takes a little while for people to trickle in once a live starts, but if you are here, hi, I'm Eric. This is my channel, Break Even Books. You are probably pretty familiar with me if you're here right now, but I am joined today by Ivy, who is the author of The American Boyfriend. This is not the final cover. This is just the proof cover. The final cover is in thumbnail notes, so you can see it there. But Ivy, I'll let you take it away and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ivy Ngeow, and I am an author of domestic psychological thrillers and literary short stories. My fifth book, The American Boyfriend, is coming out in July 2023. And it tells the story of a London single mom who's Asian and who flies abroad to meet her online paramour at his vacay home, but gets trapped in a messy murder case.
Yeah, so it sounds very interesting. I personally have not read the book yet, but this is on my TBR for next month, and I am very excited to get to it because I love thrillers and I love trying to like puzzle through and figure out what's happening. So I think this is going to be a good one, and definitely it's going to keep my attention, I feel like. Okay, so I have a list of questions that I was planning on asking you, and my first one is, what spurred your idea for this book?
For this book, I was actually traveling in Key West and I had to pop into a convenience store, and it was in the middle of nowhere. Somewhere on a long coastal road. And it was only a little store, but when I went inside, it had everything and it also had guns. They were selling guns. And then I started to think, what would make someone go into a store to buy tampons, sandwiches, and a gun? And the idea for The American Boyfriend stemmed from that initial thought. So my inspiration for this novel was and is purely visual, especially at the start. That gave me the seed of the idea.
Okay, okay. As far as I know, that is like a pretty common thing in America to be able to purchase guns like all over the place, which is that kind of blows my mind because in Canada it's not like that here.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Okay, yeah, so that's very cool that that's like a way for you to start thinking about creating this book. And yeah, that's very interesting. Um, have you always been a big fan of the thriller genre?
Not always, but I guess in the pre 21st century, the genres were a lot looser. So I read a lot of literary fiction to begin with, like when I was young, and they
Mhm.
crossed over with like suspense elements. So I would read, Daphne du Maurier, Agatha Christie, Patricia Highsmith, and to me, it's fiction, right? So I had no idea that what I was actually interested in was suspense fiction, but with a little bit of literary element as well.
Yeah.
Because in literary fiction, um, which is how I started to get into reading. It is really about the exploration of ideas, and writing is about the exploration of ideas. So to me, to do that and to be able to develop ideas from reading, for me, came from literary fiction.
Absolutely. That is so cool. I like that that perspective on it. I know personally for me, if I try and write anything, it doesn't work. I've tried a couple times, mainly because I was like, oh, I love reading so much.
Mm.
I think I could take a stab at writing. And usually I get like a page and a half into a project, and then I'm like, you know what, this is not working. I don't know. Maybe I just need to like push myself to write more, but so far I have not been able to do it. So like give huge props to everybody that can do it.
It's hard, but I think it's like practice. It's like at first you can't cycle, and then you can actually balance, you're not falling off, and then the next day you can do 1 meter. It's one of those things where
Hmm.
everybody starts with a blank page. Nobody starts with something that you've already written, because that's called editing. That's not, I mean, we write by bringing ideas onto paper, onto screen, whatever. So I think
Right.
I think that's okay to start off by writing short things, or things that you don't mind throwing away or whatever, because that's all, like, it's like rehearsing, right? You're just cycling.
Hmm. It's part of the process. It's the
Yeah.
practice. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot. Um, okay, so if you had to pick, I have this question that is kind of phrased like if you had to pick your favorite three thriller authors, who would they be? But in general, you can answer it for thrillers, but I would also just like to know, like in general, what your favorite three authors of all genres are.
I if I had to pick, I would pick like what I've just been reading, because I think that some of the classics have stuck in my mind, like Rebecca, Daphne du Maurier, To Kill
Hmm.
a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and these are just the stuff that will never leave you. You know what I mean? Like they will stay with you forever. So I would pick
Hmm.
authors that that have recently really inspired me, and the first one would be Colleen Hoover's Verity. And
Okay.
Colleen Hoover is really amazing. She's very authentic, and she writes in a really gripping style. And I don't know how she does it. I really enjoy her stories. They're very original, and that one in particular is about a writer. So it's a writer writing about a writer within a writing setup. So it's very weird. It's a story within a story, and probably resonates with me a bit more for that reason.
Yeah.
Um, and I also like Jane Corey. She's English, and she writes psychological thrillers set in Cornwall, or set in some a seaside location in UK. And I like her because she's really good on the female characters. They're very strong female characters, and they could be anyone. They could be people that you know, but like an extension of people that you know. So I
Hmm.
feel that the motivations and their I think their actions
Hmm.
really make sense to me. So that's Jane Corey. And
Okay.
I would say the third one that recently affected me is a literary author, and it's Lauren Groff, and she writes short
Okay.
stories. And this is a great cover, and it's also Florida stories. So this this book recent in a few years, a few years ago, affected me when I was writing The American Boyfriend, which is set in Florida.
Hmm. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's great. That's cool to see that like you're also getting inspiration from other books to bring into the book that you just created. So that's cool. Let's see. Okay. Do you have three favorite characters that you've read before? I know sometimes it's hard for me to even remember characters. So if you can't remember too many, that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes the characters we like are actually the minor characters, and I always think, oh no, they haven't got a bigger role. Like when you watch a movie and you think, but they're really good. The minor characters are really good, and
Hmm.
they got minor roles because either they are not attractive, or not smart, or just maybe they feel like supporting roles. So those characters tend to be forgotten, and I think that's quite sad. And the ones that stick in your mind are often the main characters. So the main characters that I really enjoyed are those like Tom Ripley, like sort of lovable villains.
Okay.
So Tom Ripley, as in like the talented Mr. Ripley. And I mean, I've always liked Patricia Highsmith's crime novels. But I think that she's created a really endearing character because he keeps doing all these crazy wrong things, and we still keep reading it.
Yeah.
Because he never gets his wrong things wrong. He always gets it right. So we're hooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Sorry,
yeah,
I was just gonna say I see what you mean by liking side characters more, because I also feel the same way. Like I'm very much, I always remember the side characters that I just see kind of stick out as something very exciting about a book, but they're not like a big part of it. And I always
yeah,
wish that there's maybe like a spin-off book just about that one side character, because I would love to read that. Um, I also do like the lovable villains for sure. I'm always like, even watching movies, I like villains more than the heroes.
oh yeah, I know, because you want to know what's going to happen. Why are they doing that, and why is no one stopping them? So I think that they do really. The villains are the ones who move the plot on. I mean, that is my one great tip, because without the villains, who cares? Who cares about the main characters? No one's giving them a hard time. So why do we care? So we need those characters that give people a hard time.
Yeah.
I think across all genres, to be honest, because obviously that's how storytelling works.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
see what I
and
mean? Yeah,
I'm always interested to like see what the motivations are behind the villains too. Like I'm very interested in their origin stories. So like I like when we actually get those, because then you get to be like, okay, this
okay,
character is actually kind of relatable. Like you understand why they're doing some of the things they're doing. So yeah.
yeah.
Um, okay, so a
And
little bit
what
about,
else?
oh,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No,
No,
I
go
was going
ahead.
to say my third character that I like is Mrs. Danvers of
Hmm.
Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. She's the housekeeper character, and I really love it when characters are in the service industry. I feel like because um, they have to provide customer service like all the
Hmm.
time. So I think that creates a really interesting dynamic because they are sort of in control but not in control. I think I'll probably try to fit in service staff, sorry, into all my narratives.
Hmm.
They are
Okay,
like the background characters, but I think they play a big role.
absolutely. You can definitely see that in like many psychological thrillers too. They're definitely playing big roles in those. Okay, I had one question. I wanted to know a little bit more about how you started writing. Like how did you get into the business of being an author?
Yeah, that's a great question. I I started writing when I was about 7 or 8. The moment I could write one word after the other and make a sentence, and then
Mhm.
make a sentence that followed the first sentence, I was fascinated by the whole idea of storytelling because I actually thought that it was what everybody did. I never thought for once that this is creative writing. I'm doing something that nobody's doing, or it's like
Mhm.
weird. After a while, I realized that when I was in school, that no one is doing this. No one's making up stories or inventing. They just tell the facts. They only write facts, like nonfiction, like whatever you're supposed to write, like an essay about blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Great white shark or whatever. So, but I had to make things up. The great white shark had to have a name. I had to make something up to go with the facts. It was not enough. The facts were not enough for me, and it was like my
Mhm.
imagination was always controlling what I was trying to do. And after a while, I realized that no one is doing this. I'm actually odd. This is weird. Like I should keep this to myself because I feel like I was living this alter ego, while everybody else was writing facts. So I kept it to myself for a really long time and never did anything with it. But my parents were very, very supportive. Like my mom is really instrumental in everything creative that I was doing, because when I was 14 or 15, I used to write short stories and enter them in competitions. And my mom used to cut them out from the newspapers and say, "Hey, there's a
Aw.
competition. Why don't you can win $50 or whatever. You I think you should have a go. You love telling stories, so why not?" I said, "Well, I can't type. You have to type." And my mom used to type them up for me, and she can't
Aw.
type either. She was using two fingers. She can't type either. So I was dictating them, and then she would correct me and say, "Oh no, but you said that girl did. Oh, she was wearing a yellow jacket before," and she was to correct me, and I didn't realize that was a process of like editing and writing at the same time. I thought she was just typing.
Mhm.
So then we entered a competition when I was 16, and I was really I was really surprised that I didn't win anything, but it was a national competition, and I got commended, and I won a trip to KL, Kuala Lumpur, the city. And my even though I was 16, I had never been there. I've never been anywhere on my own. My
Mhm.
mom actually bought me a train ticket, and I traveled alone at 16 to the city to attend a workshop and like a talk and the prize giving of the other people who won prizes. But I was the youngest person there to have attended the workshop, the weekend writing workshop. So
Mhm.
I realized I think that I have the first feeling of the buzz which people talked about, and seeing my byline. I saw my name in the papers. They listed there were like 20 who were highly commended, who didn't win a first to third prize, and I was
Mhm.
one of them. And I was 16, so I thought that I this is like one of those, like, I've been keeping this as a secret from all my classmates, and now they all know. They
Mhm.
know. It's too late. So I didn't hide it. I didn't hide it anymore, and I thought that, okay, well, you can't do writing as a job. Who writes? No, nobody writes. If you write, you're a reporter. So I didn't realize that you could do this as a job. So I didn't write for years, decades, and then I started, like, slowly. I started to build my portfolio again when I got a job that involved a lot of travel. Um, in the resort industry, and I realized there was a lot of downtime during traveling. And
Mhm.
like, I traveled everywhere: Scotland, the Caribbean. I went to Cuba, Australia, Asia. I mean, I did a lot of travel, and there's a lot of time on the 12-hour flights, and in the lay-by time, and the flight delays, cancellations, hotel
Mhm.
nights. You can't go out every night. What are you going to do? You don't even know anyone in the new city. So I used to stay in my room, and it was like the best. Like, you're locked in a cage.
Yeah.
So I started to get all these stories because I from traveling, I had so much inspiration. I've met so many types of people from different backgrounds and cultures, and there was no such word as diverse, but it was a diverse life. I ate different kinds of food. Just a simple act of trying to take a bus in a foreign city gave me ideas on, like, oh, well, how do you get a bus? How do you find out where it goes and what time and all that, and all that sort of fed back into my fiction.
That's that's really cool. I totally agree with you with the traveling and the downtime, because that's the perfect time for me whenever I'm going anywhere that's a long trip to get all my reading done. I bring multiple books and just
Of
power
course,
through
yeah, of
them.
course, yeah. Love it. And nobody is talking to you because they don't know you. Nobody cares. So you can do as much reading or writing as you want, and
Yeah.
it's not rude. You're not being antisocial or ignoring everyone, because everyone is ignoring everyone.
Yeah, so when you're in that like atmosphere, so say for example, like you're on a plane, uh, do you find it hard to kind of like zone into your writing zone, I guess? Or are you pretty good at just like tuning out everything around you and just doing your thing?
I think I'm pretty good at tuning out. I can disconnect really easily. it's the same as like when you're, if you, even if you're doing something passive like watching a movie or eating your meal on the plane, you still tune out anyway. You'd ignore everybody else. So it
Mhm.
wouldn't bother you that they're there, or all these noises are going off and whatever. I think you just once you've built a world, you enter it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I love that. That's it's really interesting to like see that you're taking all these bits and pieces from your travels and using those in your books. Like you're getting inspiration from the world, and that's such a cool thing. I love it.
The
um,
world is actually more similar than different, and people are more similar than different. And
mhm,
uh, I guess that's led to my writing about cultural conflict. I write on these themes, of displacement, identity. I mean, we're all in flux, and we're all going through the cliche, the human condition. So I
mhm,
think I feel that we are united by that fact, by the theme of humanity. So to me, that comes naturally in writing, even if it's about a foreign place, or it's only foreign to you, it's not foreign to whoever your character or whoever you're writing about.
mhm.
So it really helps with understanding people, like just getting the words down and getting the characters made.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Um, okay, I had a couple other questions that you have not heard yet. So these are on the tip of your tongue questions. So this one I like to ask lots of authors when I chat with them, and this one would be, what is your favorite book friendship? So just like a friendship between two characters. Do any books like jump out in your mind of like a specific friendship that you read about and you really enjoyed?
I really enjoyed my was it My Brilliant Friend, the Elena Ferrante. I can't remember. I think it's called My Brilliant Friend, and it's about two kids who grew up in Naples together, and they're friends, but of course they go in and out of friendship, because one is very smart and has won all these scholarships and goes on to do great things. The other one is actually smarter, did really well in primary school, but because of poverty has had to leave school and work in a shop and
Mhm.
get married young. So I think that addresses the kind of economic and cultural conflict that the characters had to go through to to bring them together in their friendship, and also to tear them apart.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I haven't read that book, but it does sound like fascinating. I'm definitely intrigued now. Um, okay, another one I like to ask all my authors is if you have a favorite reading spot. So, for example, like my favorite reading spot is out on like we have a deck attached to our house, and I like to sit out there and soak in the sun with like a ice cold lemonade or something and read books. That's my favorite spot. But I'm curious to know what yours is.
um if the weather is good, and that's quite rare in the UK, as you know, we are famous for bad weather and bad food. um so I I have the identical thing. I have the same thing. The deck that's on the back patio. I have a decking as well, and chairs and all that. So I do sit out there when it's sunny, and
Mhm.
I'll have my snack or my sandwich with me or whatever, and I or my glass of wine or something, and like I can enjoy while I'm reading. Love that. But obviously, as the weather is bad, my favorite reading spot will have to be in bed. I love being in
Mm,
bed reading. I think that it's really cozy, and especially when it's in winter and it's dark,
yeah,
um, and the whole world falls away around you because you're warm and it's bright. Where you're reading, that very spot is bright, so
yeah.
you feel like it's lighting you up.
So cozy. Yeah, no, your bed is definitely like the next best spot to read for me. If I'm not soaking in the sun, I'm lying in my bed.
So
So
comfortable. Yeah.
I agree with you
When
there.
people say, "Have you found a comfortable chair?" I'm like, "What chair? Why don't you just lie down?" It's like it's so
Yeah.
comfortable to be lying down and reading. I don't need to move like from chair to chair.
The only downside is once you're too comfortable, it's very easy to fall asleep.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that's good too, right? That means you're tired. Or you've had enough of the book or whatever. You know what I mean? You
Hmm. Yeah, no.
it's time to sleep.
I'd much rather fall asleep reading a book than
Yeah,
having like a bright screen in my face falling asleep to that.
yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's like it's a habit, isn't it? Like once you get into it.
yeah, definitely. So you did mention something. You said that you like to have a reading snack when you're reading your books. Do you have a preferred reading snack?
Yes, I do like junk food. So if somebody gave me something healthy, I know it's not good. I shouldn't be saying it on screen. But if somebody gave me something healthy, like why don't you have some nuts? I'm like, what? I like Doritos or crisps. I think in US they call them chips. I love
Yeah.
chips. I love chips. I love them. And fries, something like that. Something fried or
Hmm.
crispy, with chili sauce. Um, a drink, a fizzy drink. Like I think in the US it's called soda.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
in the US they say soda, and
yeah,
in
soda.
Canada we usually just say pop.
Oh, pop. Okay, yeah. So yeah, here they call it fizzy drink. That means the bad stuff. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's not
Yeah,
necessarily
and
very good for you, but it's
yeah.
tasty.
Tasty, yeah. So that, or obviously, if it's evening, I might have a glass of wine.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I also really like chocolate.
Oh yeah, of
So,
course.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I
I,
try
I,
not
I
to.
don't eat chocolate in bed. That's why I didn't mention it
Ah,
because
true.
when it melts down, that's the end. That's
Yeah,
it. The point of no return.
yeah, you don't want to get
Yeah,
chocolate on bed sheets or anything.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
good.
yeah. So that's banned.
Very fair, very
It
fair.
banned in my bed. Yeah.
Okay, another one that I find this like a pretty fun question, but I like to ask authors this. If you
Mm.
had to describe yourself as a book title, what do you think your book title would be?
Oh, if I had to describe myself as the book title,
Yeah, so like if your life was a book title, what would the book title be?
probably vanity.
Okay. They're always so different, honestly. That's why I like asking this question because every author has like something very unique to respond to with that one.
I think that anybody who does creative stuff, I feel that like as a creator of creating art, I feel that sometimes I feel that it's in vain, but sometimes I feel that I'm vain. It's only for my own pride, right?
Hmm.
So that's why it's very interesting the word vain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, okay, one second. I had one more question. Well, I have a couple. We're still running good on time, so I have some more
Okay.
questions I can ask you actually. Um, do you remember the first book that ever made you cry? If you do cry, like if you're an emotional reader.
Yes, I remember. I was like, I can't remember, 10 or 11, and so probably prone to being hysterical and all that. Um, yeah, the preteen girl being hysterical, and I remember reading in it Blyton, the children's author, and I can't remember some denouement scene, the final, the climactic scene of one of the series in Mallory Towers, and I don't remember which one now. The one of the series of this
Mhm.
girls' boarding school, and some kind of huge twist and realization, and a friendship that was rekindled
Oh,
and
that's
fixed
sweet.
it's really, really, it was so moving
Hmm.
that I I wrote to her. I wrote to the author. I don't know. She might even have been dead. I have no idea. But anyway, I wrote to her. I asked my mom to send the letter because, as I said to you, she's very, very instrumental and very supportive of everything that
Hmm.
I did, no matter how dumb. So I just said to her, could you please post this letter to her? I just loved it and don't read it. I've sealed it. Don't read it because I love the ending so much. I had to write to the author, and she was like, yeah, I'll go and look up her address. And
That's
really, right, it's like writing to Santa. Like, I have no idea. And I'm like, did she reply? Did she reply? And my mom's like, no, she didn't reply.
that's really cool though that your mom is like so supportive, and it's great that you have that connection with her where you guys can do that together. Like she
Yeah.
actually helped you start out doing your writing. Like that's really cool. That's very sweet.
Yeah, so I mean I really I did not realize this until now. I thought that everybody's mom did the same until I realized that when I talked to other authors, they said no, my mom doesn't even know I write. It's like we keep it
Hmm.
away from her. And I do value that now even more because obviously now I'm a published author. I realize it's because of her, and because she is a strong woman character.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm bringing that again. It's feeding back. So I'm bringing that back into characterization. I remember even as and when we were adults, we would watch movies together and we would take apart the characters. We would talk about who did what to who because she's really into the soaps, so she knows all the soaps, the characters, the guy's brother-in-law. That's the baddie. The baddie came back and became, used to tell me all that, and I was like, this is fantastic. I'm going to write that down. Like she knows all the plots and the narrative arcs, who's a baddie and how did they become bad and all the stuff of storytelling. And I did not value it or realize it until now because when we were doing it, I just thought this is what people do, like discuss characters, and they didn't. People watch in silence. It's really passive. Like people who watch soaps, I mean, they just watch. You
Hmm.
know, discussion was really something that's just between my mom and me. I guess it's very special when I think about it now.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful that you guys do that. That's awesome. I like it. Um, do you feel that writing energizes you or exhausts you,
Um,
or both?
I think it energizes me, to be honest. Yeah, I have to say that. It's like exercise. You hate wanting to do it, like, oh, I hate it, I hate it, I hate having to work out. But then after you've done it, it's very good, isn't it? You feel wide awake and you feel great. I mean, you,
Hmm.
you feel fine. Nothing bad has ever come from a workout, even a bad workout. Once you've done it, you realize that, yeah, I think that your mind and your body um, do need it. So for me, it's the same. Writing is like it's like exercise. It's basically brain exercise. To be honest, it's the same thing. It's a workout, but it's just mental.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, no, that's
yeah. So I find that myself energized if I've done it, and if I haven't done it for a long time, then I do feel restless and a bit uncomfortable. And I haven't written for a long time because I'm too busy right now, and because of the way I write, which is uh in one big burst.
yeah.
Mm,
Um, yeah, that's interesting. I know, like, it's always interesting to hear about authors' writing processes because
mhm.
they're always so different. Like everybody takes a different approach to it, but they all end up with a book. So like they all eventually get to that end milestone, and it's cool to hear like how each person gets there. But yeah, I feel like for me, if it was my case, it wouldn't be in one big burst because I'm very easily distracted. So I don't know if I'd be able to just like focus in one chunk of
Yeah.
writing and get it out. I don't think that would be me at all, but I think that's
Okay.
impressive
Yeah.
that you
Everyone
can.
is different though. Everyone writes differently.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. Are you familiar with Superman?
What do you mean by familiar?
So my question is, what is your writing kryptonite? And so,
Okay.
yeah. Do you
Um.
know what kryptonite is to Superman?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm familiar in that way. I thought you were going to ask me a question from one of the episodes or whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. No. No.
Yeah. Okay. I probably think. I mean, is it boring to say coffee?
Mm-mm.
Is that the right or wrong answer?
I don't think there is a right or wrong answer for this question. Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it
Mm-hmm.
be?
Um, I would say not to have stopped for so long, like a decade or 2 decades or whatever. I did have to. I did. I actually no, I didn't have to, but I'm the sort of person who can't do it if there's a really big project on. Like when I was having 2 kids, I stopped writing for more than 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, because I really felt guilty. I really wanted to give them 200%. I just could not even the time for myself. I would just sleep or whatever, eat something. I wouldn't want to write because that is something that I find writing is very demanding. It's like as I was
Hmm.
saying to you, the workout thing. It's very demanding. So to me, you know, it wouldn't be right to. I know other moms do it, other parents or whatever, they have kids and when their kids sleep they write and stuff. I was like, no way. When they're asleep I was doing their laundry. How can I be writing? What do you mean writing? So I it's something that I couldn't do. I'm not a, what's the word for it, multitasker. I am not a multitasker, even though people think, oh, you do so many things. Yeah, but I only do one thing at a time. If I'm doing parenting, I'm doing parenting. I don't want to do all this other stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really cool though. Like you have like such a dedication to your family, and that's very honorable. Like I love that. Okay, we actually have a comment here. This is Cameron
Oh,
from Los Angeles. My
oh,
apologies for being slightly late. My question for Ivy is there a book you love rereading that inspires you and keeps you writing?
um, yes, there is. I love Stephen King's On Writing. It's a very famous book. All authors read it and reread it.
Hmm.
Also read How to Plot Suspense by Patricia Highsmith, and it's not really a how-to manual. It just goes through the same things like the anecdotes, her anecdotes. Oh, I wrote this while I was sitting on a train and blah blah blah. But the anecdotes I find really helpful to me because um, we all don't want to be taught something. We already know how to write, but we
Hmm.
want to hear that other people might have gone through all these fleeting thoughts or stuff they were doing or being on a bus or whatever. You want to hear that writers have to go through that too. You know what I mean? The mundane stuff, the
Yeah.
stuff of life. So I find those two books really help me to start and stop.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense completely. Also, if anybody else in the chat has questions for Ivy, definitely put them in there. We also have this comment from Eliza. I'm excited to read your book. Thanks for having this live and putting it on my radar. So thanks for coming and joining over, Eliza.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
I have a couple more questions for you.
Hmm.
How did publishing your first book change your process of writing, if it did?
How did it change? I reached a much broader audience than than my mom, than my own family, and my friends. My friends are like, "Oh yeah, I'll read it. Yeah, I love reading. I'll read your book." It's not the same. You want people who don't know you to read your book and
Hmm.
hate it or love it or whatever. You want a reaction because it's art, right? You create something, it's art. You want
Yeah.
an audience.
Yeah.
And to me, to reach a broader audience that was international, really helped me to understand writing for an international market because my first book was published in Hong Kong and I'm not even from Hong Kong. So I had no connections with the city.
Hmm. That's that's kind of funny. Like I think you're the first author that said that you wanted people to hate your book, which is very like interesting. But like
If
I
they hate
totally
your
see.
book, it's saying something. It means
Yeah.
Well, okay, they could be mad, they could be nuts. That's true, but then they could also be telling you something. So I would look at my. I mean, somebody has hated my second novel before, and really, went for it, and it actually made me. Of course, I was like shaking. I needed a hard drink, and it was only 8 a.m. And I was shaking. I was like absolutely horrified. I was horrified, and I thought that then I realized, no, they're hating it because why? So I went through the entire novel, and that I knew that the weak points and the strong points, and I knew that it was because of the reader expectations. They expected something else.
Yeah, definitely. Reader expectations are like a pretty big thing. And even for myself, like I would say it's impacted my reading for some books because I would be expecting something and then
Mm.
given something else that I wasn't as happy with or like something I was not hoping for. So then, yeah, like I can understand that perspective. And it must be hard to deal with like getting all of that information to you, like being the author, the one writing the story and putting it out there in the world. Do you find that it's hard to like see that real honest feedback from a bunch of people of all different backgrounds, all different places?
I find it, yeah, I find it quite hard to take. It's actually very heartbreaking because it's something that you probably have slaved over
Hmm.
and sacrificed a lot. We've sacrificed income, we've sacrificed work, parent, we've sacrificed a lot to put ourselves out there. And so I do find it heartbreaking if they hated it, or it somehow is wrong when you finish and you're not happy with it. If you're not happy with it and you spend years living over it, it's really heartbreaking. And I think that as a creator of anything, that there's something that will it will resonate with you.
Hmm.
The feeling of disappointment and failure. So I don't think any writer can say they don't fear the failure or the disappointment. I think that it comes with it.
Yeah, I think that's true too. And I feel like what also comes with that is the push and the drive to make your next one that much better. And it just like
Mm. Yeah, it
it helps.
motivates. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, I have one more question from the chat here. What's the easier, hardest part of the writing process? And then they said easiest. So, what is the easiest slash hardest part of your writing process?
Of the writing process, I would say the hardest is the first draft, because that is the blank paper, the blank sheet.
Hmm.
Every day you wake up and it's blank. You still have to fill it up. So I think that's very hard. Um, okay. And what's the easiest part of the writing process? There isn't an easy part. It's all hard.
Well, that's a valid answer.
Yeah, I was just trying. I was trying to think. There must be something that's easy. I don't think there is. It is hard.
Yeah, it seems
Mm,
like it's pretty hard process the whole way through because you have to write the book, then you need to get if you're not going to self-publish. I mean, self-publishing is a whole other thing if you want to do that, but if not, then you have to have an agent. Your agent has to get that book to the publishing companies. The book needs to get accepted. Then
yeah.
there's so
The
many steps
querying,
within
then
the
there's the
process.
querying. Yeah, you spend
Yeah,
all these years, and then you have to spend all these years querying. So it's yeah, that
yeah,
is how work. That
and
I
even like when you get past the querying stage where you get an offer, the
yeah.
book still probably won't come out for another like couple years. So it's a lot.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've got this book coming out. I don't think I've ever worked so hard. I don't
Hmm.
think I've ever worked so hard on a job that doesn't even pay. I'm doing this on the side.
Yeah,
You know, the whole process, like the editing, the promoting, and the constant pitching, like pitching it every day. So it is hard. That's why it's a job. I mean, that's why people
hmm,
do it as a job.
hmm, yeah, absolutely. Okay, I have two last questions for you. So my second last question is on, or how long on average does it take for you to write a book?
Okay, I got quicker and quicker with my first book, the one that was published in Hong Kong. That won an award, but I really labored over it because it's literary fiction,
Mhm.
like slash suspense thriller, and because I really wanted to use language to to um to make it to make it artistic, to make it very creative, so therefore it's literary fiction. So that book took a few years, probably 3 or 4 years, a long
Okay.
time, followed by like 11 drafts or whatever. So I'm not really proud of that. I'm very proud of the book because it's really you know um it's really something that I haven't done. I was doing something very adventurous, very adventurous
Hmm.
by using wordplay, and so I'm proud of that. But I'm not proud of the amount of time that I have spent on it because, in the end, it's like out, it's published, and but now I'm getting much better because the American Boyfriend was written in 39 days, and that's the
Wow.
first draft, and that's what I mean by I think my style is doing it in one burst. Had I done the slow and steady way and taken a year or two, I think I would have lost it. I would have completely lost my mind again.
Hmm.
Each book makes me lose my mind, and so I with such a hard task, right? Let's do it at one go. When they say something is very hard, like, oh my God, you're going to demolish your garage, just demolish it. You don't, you'll spend a day or whatever. Why spend 4 months demolishing a garage when you can just? So I felt that this is a horrible job. Let's just get it done in one go. I actually clocked myself every day that I was writing. I wrote it down. I did not write every day, but as
Hmm.
close to every day as possible. And so in total, it was 39 days.
Wow, that's impressive. That's awesome. It's really cool that like your process got faster and faster as you went too. Very cool.
I think
Um,
that every that we do get better and better at it. So it does get faster. I think you get better at it because you will immediately know, oh, that's wrong. That kind of like he gotta go straight away. Let's not even
mhm.
waste time developing, whatever it is. So I think it comes with practice.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. Okay, so my last question for you is tell us, well, it's not really a question. It's tell us more about your books that you have out and what your next project is after this.
I've written 5 novels, so my fifth novel is coming out on Penguin in July, and it's called The American Boyfriend. And my first novel is Cry of the Flying Rhino. That's the book that won prize and was published in
Mhm.
Hong Kong. My second, third, and fourth book were published here. The second and fourth are actually in a series. So Heart of Glass and White Crane Strikes. They are both set in Chicago, uh, Chicago's Chinatown and Macau. So so I started writing this sort of American crime thriller series. My third book is Overboard, and it's a psychological thriller set in London, Thailand, and Cambodia. So I started looking at uh, international locations, and all
Mhm.
in all my novels, I'm setting it somewhere that we'd like to escape to, that we'd like to be in, and to create a world that readers will really enjoy, because I'm creating that world for myself too. When I write these novels, I create the worlds that I'm going to spend time in, like the 39 days.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Florida, Key West, and they're all like picturesque settings, and they're all places that people would dream about and want to go to, like Chicago,
Mhm.
Hong Kong. These are on people's destination list. So so in doing that, I feel that, like, it spread across my novels. I feel that I have been there. I feel that I know it. I've been there. I've done it. So my next novel, which is my sixth novel, is going to be a London thriller as well. So it's about a prodigal daughter who returns home broke, her wealthy father for help, but finds that he's already hired a very attractive housekeeper who completely dominates him and wants her out of the picture.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's something that definitely sounds intriguing. So we'll have to keep that on our radar. Just for everybody that is in the chat currently right now, all the information about The American Boyfriend, cover not final, will be in the description. So you guys can go check out the pre-order links that are existing for there. And it will be available, I believe, in the US and Canada in September.
Yeah, US and Canada and
Okay.
UK in September.
Right. And I also have Ivy's Twitter linked in the description as well. So you guys can go follow Ivy on Twitter and follow along with her story. Okay, with that, I think we could probably wrap up. I've gone through all my questions with you. So thank
And thank
you,
you so
Ivy, for
much,
joining.
Eric. Yeah, that was really great. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem. I like to have authors on here and just have Q&A sessions where we can just like chat back and forth about books, because everybody always has like a unique perspective about everything, and it's very interesting. I like personally like picking authors' brains, so I enjoy doing it. So it was no trouble at all.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, if with that, I guess we'll say goodbye and thank you everybody for coming by. So I'll just say bye.